Hello and welcome. Today we have a special guest on our show today, Jose Castanheira, the solo developer behind the new retro-inspired sci-fi FPS with a Metroidvania twist, and it is called Exophobia. Jose, welcome. How are you doing, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your game?
Hello, thanks for the invite. I'm doing well, and hope you are too. So Exophobia was recently released. It's my first commercial game, so I've been doing games for a while, and Exophobia is like my first big project. It's a retro FPS mixed with some Metroidvania progression, where you just have a big map and you have to explore. You have to backtrack, fight some bosses, enemies, get upgrades and all that. So it kind of adds a bit of twist to the FPS of the old times like Doom and Wolfenstein, and it tries to build a bit on that.
So what inspired you to create Exophobia, and how did you come up with this unique retro-inspired aesthetic? I really love the design and the color palette and all of that. How did you come up with all of that?
Yeah, so I was doing game jams at the time before even starting game dev like professionally. So I was doing a lot of small games, and I was just experimenting with different genres. And then I wanted to do some FPS. I never did a 3D game and a first-person shooter. So I wanted to do something like that, like in a weekend. And then just to make it more interesting, I wanted to make like a restricted color palette. So I came up with these red for the blood, and then the blues for the metals and the spaceship and all that. And that all sparked up this idea of a spaceship filled with aliens, red aliens, and you have to kill them, and they leave all sort of blood and all that. And this, I did pixel art a lot, and so I wanted to mix all these inspirations I had, like and bring my own strengths into this small project, and it ended up creating this world of blues and reds. Yeah.
So first and foremost, I love that you said that you participate in game jams. I think game jams are the coolest just kind of community thing out there. So that's awesome to hear. That said, with solo development, obviously you did all of the programming yourself, but did you also do all of the artwork, sound effects, and everything? And with the amount of work that's involved in that, can you speak to how you stayed motivated to take all that on?
Yeah, so so being a solo developer, it's kind of like you kind of like a fine line to say, like, what can you say as being a solo developer, right? I do all the code and the art, but all the audio parts of the game are made by friends of mine that was hired as a freelance regime. So it's like, because it's something that I never learned how to do, like the audio part, like make music and sound effects, and I wanted them to be a professional level, even more than the art and the programming. I think I can do them, but they're not like super perfect and professional. But yeah, so when I said like solo devs, like the idea came from me, and all the building all this game came from me. I think most solo devs also use this terminology just to make like they came up. They are the authors of the game, but they also, like, of course they need some help. I don't think it's really
realistic.
Hard. Yeah. It's really hard to make like a big game for yourself only. Like there have been stories of that, like I think Cave Story and all that, like the guy did everything, and that's like a huge inspiration. But yeah, and the way to keep motivated, I think it's just because you are also working on something that it was your idea. So you kind of have a different kind of motivation that you want to see it come to fruition, right? You want to see it,
passion,
to see it materialize. Yeah. So you have a different passion than just working a regular job or for another game, like being just a part of a team. Like I think it's a different kind of passion. And yeah, only a few devs, I think, like this. So it's okay to do that. Like you can like to be part of a team, or you can like to make your own ideas. And there's space for everyone. And I think it comes from yourself, like this motivation.
So obviously, like you said, like working on the sound effects, that you didn't know how to do that, so you had to outsource. But what were some of the other challenges that you faced as a solo dev? Like I'm imagining, like how did you find your publisher, and what other type of issues like kind of came up along the development process? Because, you know, we've always like dreamed of making our own game, but for any like other developers out there who are thinking about maybe going down the path that you chose, what kind of challenges can they expect to face?
Yeah, so when I started this, this game. I didn't know as much as I know today, right? I was really throwing myself out into there and to try to make a commercial game, something big, and that I could put on Steam and all that. And I had no idea. Like I never talked with publishers before. I never did marketing for real. Never like did any of the biz dev and like even building a game that is going to be commercial, you need to have like some sort of quality of life things, like you have to have translations, all sorts of settings for players and all that. So I was learning the whole time, and yeah. So the biggest challenge I think is just when you just face something that you don't know and you have to learn it on the spot. I didn't want to have a publisher at the start because I was like, yeah, I can. I'm surviving on my own right now. I have a side job, and I'm doing this game on as a side thing also. So it was good. But one day I was like just posting on Twitter, and then the publisher approached me. Not only this one, the PM Studios, the one that I ended up going with, but other publishers approached me and thought the game was interesting and they wanted to see more. And then I started talking with them. So, and then kind of convinced me that, yeah, they can make like something bigger than I was expecting. And yeah, I went and ended up going with that, which is really, really nice because they gave me a lot of opportunities that I had never dreamed of before as my first game. And yeah, nowadays I think it's really hard to get a publisher. Not at the time, I think it was really easy, and I got a bit lucky on that. But yeah, if you really need some funding or that just to build your game, it's gonna get hard. Even especially if you're a solo developer with no portfolio. So if you at least have if you do work on game jams and all that, just have a portfolio ready to show that you can actually do those games and you can make those games. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do to get some recognition.
Awesome. So, with your experience with game jams and this game, what game engines have you used, and what game engine did you use to develop Exophobia?
Yeah, so it's Game Maker Studio. I've used it for a long time. Like since I was a kid, I was looking like how to make games, and then the first thing that came up was Game Maker. And yeah, it's really nice for 2D games, not much for 3D, but it was a challenge to get it working on a 3D game on Game Maker. But yeah, I really liked it because it's really easy to put my ideas out there, working as fast and test them out. Yeah, it's very idea friendly, I think, like for creators that don't want to get too technical on making their games.
Did you consider Unity?
Yeah, but
or were you just?
I didn't have any experience with that, so I didn't want to go and make it harder for me. But at the same, it was harder at the same time because it was like making 3D in Game Maker. But yeah, maybe Unity could be an easier choice. But I was more familiar with Game Maker and really wanted to try it out.
Cool.
It's kind of using like the tools that you.
Stick with what you know.
Yeah, stick with what you know, and don't overdo the tools, like working with Unreal Engine, for instance. Like that would be overkill for a game like Exophobia, which is really simple.
Absolutely. So can you describe the core gameplay mechanics and how they contribute to the fast-paced combat experience?
Yeah, so I wanted to take Wolfenstein, the design of Wolfenstein, where you can't look up and down, you can just look left and right, like turn around, and expand a bit on it. So try to make it more strategic, more fast-paced, where you really have to take decisions constantly and not just shoot and hide behind walls, and try to add more depth to the combat itself. So I tried, okay, what can be like a good thing? And I thought about, Wolfenstein is pretty much like a top-down game. If it wasn't 3D, it would just be a top-down. And what you see most in top-down games was a slide or a dash that you can use it to get invulnerability frames. And I think that works really well with the 3D thing. So I had one slide in Exophobia that you can slide underneath the bullets of enemies and all that. And then having that action, I wanted to add more usefulness to that action. So it can also use the slide to push enemies and interact with other objects. Yeah, so the movement came out from that, and then of course the shooting and all that. Every weapon has its own, every upgrade has its own way to use. You can use it in multiple ways, and I wanted to to like make something that is simple to use, but you can discover new ways to use
ways to approach a problem.
Yeah, new ways to use your own abilities. Yeah.
When you went through and got all of these abilities and things like that, there had to be surprise bugs that you were like, "What? How is it doing that? Why is it doing that?"
Yeah, the thing with having like everything, like one thing interacting with a lot of other things, is that some things that can happen that you don't expect at all, and it can be really funny or just break something. And then that's most of the bugs that came up was like me just changing one thing and then that thing affecting multiple other things, and then I had to revert and see, oh, this can't happen. Like I can give you an example off the top of my head right now, but yeah, like something like, oh, if the fire is like there's a fire thing, like the flamethrower guy that shoots for fire, but the fire is also a type of bullet, and then the bullet can destroy some things, and then the fire is also a bullet, so it can also destroy things. But then if you put like the bullet like bouncing or something, when it hits like a hard wall, and then the fire also does that, but it looks weird, like having the fire bounce off something. Yeah. So everything is kind of has the same behavior like that, because that's the way it was built. Like one thing can work as multiple things, and that can lead to unexpected stuff.
You love to see it. So you had mentioned the different color palettes and trying to stick to a small grouping of colorings. With that said, how did you approach the design of the alien enemies and their behavior patterns?
So you're talking about the art or just the...
A little bit of both. So
okay, yeah.
You had mentioned of why they had the colors they had. Well, what about the design and their movements?
Yeah, so to make the game interesting, even more interesting than with the movement that you have and all that, I wanted to put the player to good use with the enemies. So the enemies try to approach you in different kinds of ways. So every enemy has a different strategy. And the first enemies, they're very simple. There's a guy that just looks at you and shoots. A guy that runs at you and tries to eat you from up close. The one that hides very far and shoots you and then has a shield. So all these enemies, when combined, they like make you really have to take some decisions to like, which one should I kill first? Which one? Oh, now that guy doesn't have a shield, so I have to shoot him. So I wanted to try to make them all different. So when they are together, you kind of have to strategize what you're going to do. As for the design, I tried to make them all different. So, and of course, make them look like what they like. Their actions, their design reflect their actions. Like if it's a slow guy, then it's got to be big. If it's like a fast guy, it has to look skinny and all that. So making all the, like I have this alien design of the red guys with tentacles on their faces, and then I try to make like different variations and give them like all these sci-fi outfits and all that and weapons. And it's kind of hard in pixel art because all the sprites are 32 by 32 pixels. But that was the fun part of it, and I think it also helps with trying to make different shapes that you can easily recognize when you're in combat. So making like them really small in pixel art also helps with making different shapes that you can easily recognize.
So throughout the game too, you can also upgrade weapons. How do you go about upgrading the weapons in the game as a player, and how did you design that to impact the gameplay?
Yeah, so it works pretty much as a Metroidvania. There are like checkpoints in the game that you can save the game, but there are also rooms that you can find that give you these upgrades. The upgrades are it's different from a FPS game where you have to switch weapons to use them. Here you just have one weapon, and then it gets added some abilities on top. So you never have to switch weapons. All you have to do is like find which button does the new ability. And I wanted it to be like a surprise, like for a player, that he has to go through all these rooms with enemies and kill them and try to overcome these challenges. And then as a it's kind of as like that surprise factor of, oh, now you can upgrade your weapon and you get stronger. or you can even get stronger, but you have like a new way to do something, because there are some upgrades that are not just combat focused, and it kind of like expands a bit on. It's like, oh, you already learned how to defeat enemies with these abilities you have. Now here's another ability, and here's harder enemies to fight. So it kind of has like every section of the game is kind of planned to be like a big crescendo until you get the upgrade, and then there's another crescendo until you get the next one, where you try to get used to this new ability. And the boss fights also force you to learn them to be able to defeat the boss.
So would you say with that mechanic was the approach to sort of keep the players engaged and involved and kind of hitting this high point,
stuff.
Getting that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Keep throwing new stuff at the player to, like, oh, you already learned this, so it's not getting really, so it doesn't get,
it never gets stale.
Yeah, it never gets stale. Yeah.
So what is the story behind Exophobia, like the narrative story, and how did you like interweave that into the gameplay?
Yeah, that's I think that's the lowest point of the game. I mean, like the weakest point of the game, I can say, because like I don't think I'm really good at writing stories, but the story is there. Like you have to collect all these CDs in the game, and these CDs that are scattered around the map. Some are secret, some are shown. You can find them like just walking around. And these CDs, when you go to a checkpoint, they reveal like a short message from someone that recorded. So the story is that you're inside a spaceship that crashed in a planet, alien planet, and then you have to find out like what happened now, that because when you start the game, you wake up in the spaceship, but every human is dead, but there are some humans that are alive, and they contact you through these CDs, and you have to find them. And the story is kind of, you have to piece the story together just by finding these CDs. And so you get all this new information. So it's kind of optional in the game, because I wanted to give it more the focus on the game design and the combat and exploration.
And I feel like that kind of holds true to like the retro roots of, you know, the game's inspiration, because I feel like a lot of those old school games, the story was always kind of there, but it was only there if you really wanted to discover it. And if you wanted to do gameplay forward, you know, that was an option. So I feel like that's very cohesive with its retro inspired roots.
Were there any other games? You had mentioned Wolfenstein and Castlevania. Were there any other games or media that really influenced how you developed Exophobia?
Yeah, I'd like to say like the inspirations, sometimes you don't think about them, and they are part of what you like as a game developer, as a player. So I kind of bring like a lot of 2D games from the Game Boy era, the Game Boy Advance era. I also like Metroid Fusion and Mega Man and all that. I think it all reflects a bit on the kind of game that it is, and even like the way the gameplay feels and all that. It's all part of what you play and what you like to play. When you are a game developer, kind of you bring all of these inspirations unconsciously.
And we can agree here and now that Metroid Fusion is the best Metroid game ever created, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Me and one of my co-hosts constantly disagree. He thinks it's Metroid Prime. I think he's wrong.
Oh, okay. I should have played Metroid Prime, but I couldn't. I didn't play that at the time, but because this is a retro FPS Metroidvania, so I should have played, but I didn't. I couldn't get into it. I don't know why.
No, the retro's better. You made the right choice.
Yeah.
So this is the most important question on the show. In the launch trailer, we noticed you included the "Can you pet the dog" mechanic. How important was this to include, and what other fun additions can be found?
Okay, so the "Can you pet the dog" was just like a happy coincidence, I think, because I was just kind of bored a bit at the end of the development. I was like, I'm just so tired of programming stuff that I don't care, like menus and all that, because you have to really polish the game to be able to launch it. And I was just focusing a lot on coding, like stuff that like it's important, but it's really boring. But but I like, as a solo developer, I like to like exchange a bit, like switch my mentalities from going to code to art, and I just did a bunch of code, and I haven't been doing art, so I wanted to let's do a bit of art, and what can I do? Like so I just wanted to. So it just came up to me like, maybe I'll just pixel my dogs and dogs from Friends and all that, and I started pixeling them, and then I think they can also fit in the game, so I ended up adding them into the game, and all the petting mechanic and all that. So just a fun thing, and since it's a game based on secrets and Easter eggs, I think it fits.
So all your friends who are
special rooms,
all your friends playing the game, they can basically, if they find the right Easter egg, find their dogs. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm a dog person, so.
Oh, so are we.
Oh, nice.
You are truly a man after my own heart.
Cool.
All right. So to kind of wrap everything up, looking ahead, do you have any plans for post-launch updates or additional content for Exophobia that we can look forward to in the future?
I have so many ideas, but the problem is that with the time and energy to have all of these, it would be really nice to have like a level editor or like where you can just build your levels, because I think like I did all these big map that you can find in the game. It's like it has a lot of different challenges and all that, but I think all the mechanics that are in there, they can be expanded to other levels. And I think if players could make their own, like I could see a lot of cool ideas coming up with these mechanics. Like you have, for instance, the flamethrowers, the lasers, the oil that you can slip on. There's a lot of different mechanics that I haven't been used to the full potential in the game, and it would be cool to see different levels made from players' creativity. So yeah, a level editor would be like my favorite thing, but I think it's one of the things that it is a lot of work, because you really have to make like a software that you can use to draw the levels. You have to have a way to share the levels and have others play them. So it will be like a lot of work in itself, but it would be cool to see. For other things, that I also like to have like a multiplayer thing that you can also shoot other people with the same mechanics as the main guy, just like a versus mode or something. Yeah, but that will just be fun ideas. Nothing confirmed yet, but I'd like to add some post updates.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jose. This is the interview for Exophobia.
It's on Steam, Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation 4 and 5.
You can find it basically everywhere. So check it out, folks. This game looks amazing, and we are absolutely going to play it for ourselves. So thank you very much for your time, Jose. And really,
thank you for the invite.
An awesome job. Do you have any final words that you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, just keep supporting indie games, and that's it. Yeah, buy Exophobia. That will help me a lot with my next project.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll take a short break and then get into our news segment.
I'm Ryan Fonzie.
This is Cameron Hagee.
My name is Tony Giggles.
And we're three dudes who love The Legend of Zelda and love talking about The Legend of Zelda.
And if you are a Zelda fan as much as we are, then come on down and listen to your heart's content.
We have a podcast that we'd like to share with you. It's called A for No, B for Yes. We cover the Legend of Zelda series, different games chapter by chapter, and we have all kinds of theories about what we see and what we've experienced in the game.
Do you go through Wikipedia and look up stuff based on the things you see in the game to create theories to how it could link to other things in the world that we actually live in, and not the Zelda one that was the one that was created by the people that are in the world that we actually live in right now? Because if you don't, then you should watch this, because we do.
Did you guys get all that? If not, oh, you didn't. Okay. So we are A for No, B for... All right, I'll stop.
All right, we are back. Thanks to Jose for coming by to talk with us about Exophobia. And yeah, we're back. I'm back. I'm here. I was gone. And during the break, you guys
some
revived
necromancer stuff.
So thanks for doing that. I'm happy to be back. We've got some fun. I would say I wouldn't say, it's true. We have a movie to discuss, an upcoming movie, and we have an upcoming game to discuss. And I want to start with the movie because I think I'm about to maybe appall one or both of you by saying I have never seen any of the Princess Diaries movies. Is that okay for me to have not?
Shut up. Are you
I had a
serious?
feeling I was going to get this reaction. So we're going to be talking about Princess Diaries 3, but I kind of just wanted to get ahead of this and just say that I haven't seen them. I didn't even know that there was a second one until the news about the third one came out. I certainly
Chris
know
Pine
about the
was
first
in it.
one. So I'm seeing a lot about we should dig into that too, because I'm seeing most of the news that I've seen about Princess Diaries 3 has basically been like, hey, if they don't get Chris Pine to come back, I'm going to kill myself. This is like fans of the series saying this. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of 3 being announced, do you think that's actually do you think it's critically important that Chris Pine come back? I assume you're a fan of this franchise.
I am a fan of the franchise. Personally, I kind of was upset in the Princess Diaries sequel when they replaced the leading man of the first one with Chris Pine. Like, I don't know. I was a sucker, I guess. It would be like in the Lizzie McGuire movie, if you replace Gordo with random schmuck number 9, except at the time, like, now I know it's Chris Pine, but back then I was like, what the heck is this guy? Now,
Right.
I mean, you have to have some continuity, so it would be great if he was still around, but also noting that it's been, 20 years since the last movie? Maybe not that much, but like a long time, and that things may have changed.
Is she a queen now, or I thought she married to become a queen?
Well, the sequel was with Chris Pine. I don't might get spoilers, I guess. Did they wind up getting married? Do we know? Do we remember? We're putting you on the spot. You're the resident fan of this franchise. We need to know what footing we're on before we get into the third one. While you're Googling, I will just kind of run through the broad details here. So the Princess Diaries 3 is coming back. Anne Hathaway made a little video somewhere on the internet. It may have been Instagram. I don't actually know exactly where. But essentially, it's coming back. And not only is it coming back, it has a director. It is going to be directed by Adele Lim, who worked on Crazy Rich Asians most recently, which was a big hit. I can't imagine she was the director of either of the first movies. But yeah, so 2001 was the original movie, which I do remember. It was a big deal when it came out for our generation. I know about Genovia. I know Julie Andrews was in it. It was a whole thing. And then in 2004, the Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement came out. Of course, Royal Engagement implying that she was going to I don't know, get married or something. So obviously no real details about Princess Diaries 3 or what it's about, although what we have been essentially told is that it is going to be a prequel, which I guess I kind of need a little help wrapping my head around that aspect of it. If they're getting Anne Hathaway back, how could it be a prequel? I don't know. No word on whether Julie Andrews will be returning. I have to imagine Julie Andrews is kind of up there now, age-wise. So
maybe she's somehow playing a young Julie Andrews because, genetics.
All right, so
it remains to be seen. Yeah, go on. To give us the
spoiler
deets.
alert for the second movie. If you don't want this, close your ears, I guess. So how the movie ended was the whole plot was that in order for the main character, Mia, to become the queen of Genovia and basically graduate from princesshood, she had to be married. They end up abolishing that law. She doesn't end up marrying Chris Pine, but wants to be with him, and they kind of have,
So
they
a Love is
become a
Blind
couple.
situation. They're like, this is crazy. Let's just date and feel it out.
Yeah, more or less. Well, there was also some weird plot line I remember where they were oh, is Chris Pine's character sent to, basically weasel his way in, be a spy, some weird thing like that, and be a villain. And then he ended up not being a villain. That aside, the movie basically ended where Mia is the queen of Genovia, and then Julie Andrews' character ends up marrying Joe, who is the princess or welcome to Genovia sort of, or Genovia waits you, that guy, the old guy in the Princess Diaries. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, the old guy everyone
I do
likes.
not.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, I do not know who that is. Because I didn't see him. But I'll take
I
your
think
word for it.
you should watch at
Pitch-
least the first one.
Envision the friendly New York City door greeter in every movie that everyone loves. That's the personality.
And you're saying the queen marries that guy.
Yes, because she was not able to marry him because, she had to marry a royal person. And
Royal, yeah.
so that was kind of
Right.
what helped Mia get rid of and abolish the law saying that she had to be married to become queen, because she was this was the love of my life, and I, threw that away to be queen, and now I regret that, and you don't have to do that, and also now I'm going to go marry this guy after all.
So let's dig into this. I think with our varying perspectives on the franchise, we've talked about things like this a lot on this show, right? Where like, okay, the first movie came out in 01, the second movie came out in 04, and then 20 years went by, and the group of people that presumably enjoyed the first two movies the most suddenly became like the demographic that can make their own choices about media to consume and go to the theater and see, and like presumably have some level of disposable income. Therefore, it makes sense for, Hollywood to kind of unearth this thing. I'm so inclined, if you can't tell, to kind of dissect this as a bit of a cynic and just think,
Well, hang on. Before you become a cynic, based on everything that Nerdbomber just read, they planted substantial meat to open this up for a third movie, right? They had said, this is the love of my life that I let get away, but they didn't put details on that, so there's your prequel story. They also said, hey, me and you, Chris Pine, we need to suss this out, but like, they didn't give them a happily ever after. So there's meat right there, right? This could be, hey, she's on her wedding day. She has cold feet now. And she's like, well, let me tell you about let me tell you our backstory, because I never did.
And I mean, they could bring back the guy from the first movie who, the only reason I remember this now as I was digging down memory lane to try to unearth the details of these movies, because it's been a while since I've seen them. But the first, male love interest in the first movie, the reason why they didn't bring him back was because he was actually in the band Rooney. I don't know if you remember that band from back in the day. And he was like, yo, I'm going to go hit it big and go on tour with my band, so I'm not going to be in this movie. And so that is why he wasn't in the second one. Imagine now that like that band is, I don't know if they're still making music. If you're a big Rooney fan, come at me, I guess. Educate me on what they're doing. But I haven't seen them release anything new lately. They're at least not like the hot thing. So I'm sure he could find some time in his schedule to like hook up with Anne Hathaway for the Princess Diaries 3.
I could find schedule and I could find time.
I've never heard of this band, by the way. I think you're saying this band name like it's a band.
Rooney?
I should know who it is.
But
Rooney.
My point of this is it's not that they're just unearthing this. They had Anne Hathaway and Chris Pine had to date for a little bit before they can get comfortable being married. The time makes perfect sense.
Let me counterpoint in a sense.
I'm just hold on. When did your heart go missing? You don't know the Rooney
Sorry,
song?
Is that the title of a song?
Yeah. Nothing? All right.
No.
You're going to have to sing it.
I'm not going to do that.
Well, whenever you're ready, I'll be here. Let me just try on this idea as just a counterpoint argument, just different idea. Rather than make a Princess Diaries 3, why not reboot it? Are we precious as a generation? Are we precious about Anne Hathaway being the princess in Princess Diaries?
I think
is that
I
something
am.
that we demand?
I think I am. I think you need her, and if you can, I don't know what Julie Andrews is doing these days. I know she's pretty old and she might not want to do it. And if that's the case, like leave her alone, let her, retire in peace. But if we can get both of them back, I mean, Julie Andrews is still doing voiceover work for Bridgerton. She can pop in for, a Princess Diaries 3 sequel. Give me like 5 minutes of her. Really, like, Anne Hathaway is one part of it, but like Julie Andrews is like the pinnacle of the Princess Diaries in my mind. And so she needs to be involved if you can in some aspect. So that is why I'm precious about maintaining the original cast, because Julie Andrews is still alive and I want her.
Also, Illeagle, you shut your mouth. I'm so over reboots. They need to be either new content or building on existing content that with new stories. This is the right moment. I mean, case in point, Beetlejuice, right? They just made Beetlejuice 2, and it just blew the doors off because they stayed true to what made everyone love Beetlejuice 1. And so as long as they stick to the script, this is gonna be gangbusters.
And also, Anne Hathaway is in her like revisiting franchises era, because I believe she's also going to come back for Ella Enchanted sequel. So like, I think she's just in her, princess fairy tale reboot era. Not reboot, but like, you know what I'm talking about. Bringing it back, the old franchises.
Let me provide a counterpoint to my previous counterpoint. Okay, you don't want to reboot, message received. Why not have the best of both worlds? And it's a sequel, and Anne Hathaway is now playing the Julie Andrews role, where
You don't know
she
that
had
it
a
won't be.
daughter.
You don't know that that's not the case.
They're saying it's a prequel. What I'm reading is that it's a prequel.
Yeah, but it could be a prequel in the
I don't know
sense
why.
that she's telling a love story to her daughter, right?
Well, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about doing. I'm saying that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too if you essentially retell the story where Anne Hathaway is in the Julie Andrews role. So then, our generation gets their kicks from like, oh my God, that's Anne Hathaway. That's Mia from Genovia or whatever. And she has a daughter. So you get to do you get the same sources of comedy from the first one that worked so well while retaining the characters that people love. Like, I guess my point is
I don't think you
that's
can
what I would
cast
do.
her though as a young Julie Andrews. I think that you have to find a new young Julie Andrews.
Why?
I
Why
just
is
think
that,
you do. I
required?
think it would be very jarring in my brain to be like, to divorce the characters in my head, to like see her in the same movie universe and be like, okay, you're not Mia, you're actually young Julie Andrews.
No.
Like,
Let me. I feel like I confused you.
you did
She
a
is
little bit.
she's playing the Julie Andrews role in the sense that she is Mia from Genovia, but now she has aged up and she
She's
has
the
a daughter who's in
elderly.
the same situation.
Oh yeah, and I'm saying that might be the case here.
It's not because it's a prequel. They said it's a prequel. So
But she might.
that's my counterpoint.
But the Julie Andrews role was really to be a guiding hand, and that's why I said my theory is it could be both, right? Where she could be telling a love story to her daughter, be that guiding hand role, so you get both the prequel while introducing new cast and setting up for the future.
I think Techtic and I are on the same wavelength. Like I'm in his brain, and that's what I can see, and I'm not articulating it. But thank you for articulating that for me.
You're
I
welcome.
just don't think it's really this. It's not what I'm envisioning. Like I get what you're saying. I just think then it's a different movie. I think you could have your cake and eat it too if you just did the same thing you did for the first movie, which worked super well, but you retained the like generational aspect of it. I don't think you need to do a prequel love story thing. I don't think you need to do that. I don't know if that's a requirement. I'm not necessarily averse to it, and I also have like really no horse in this race. I just think that if I was trying to maximize, the feels factor, that's probably what I would do. But in any case, this is certainly happening. I think I would probably get something out of going back and watching these movies.
I really do think you should do it.
I don't.
You and Hayes.
I
need
don't
to
know
sit
which
down
one was better.
and
Which one was better?
have a fun little night watching both of these. Definitely the first one. The OG is going to be the best.
That's what I would have thought, but I wanted to get confirmation on that. So, anyways, this is happening. I don't know that we have any other details that I haven't already said. So I guess we'll keep you updated. I don't know. Also, I'm looking. Julie Andrews was Anne Hathaway's grandmother in the franchise. I don't know that Anne Hathaway has hit grandmother status yet. So that kind of causes my plan to fold in on itself a little bit. I'm sure there's someone that was currently sending that tweet to me as I said that.
That's not the role that I was saying. She was the guiding hand. That is the important piece of information. You could be a grandmother, you could be a mother. Hell, you could be a weird aunt and still be that guiding hand.
Well, we'll see. Maybe so. Yeah, I'll go back and watch these. Why not? I certainly don't know that the Princess Diaries 3 is going to be something that I see in theaters, even if I do wind up loving the first movie. But, go off, studio that's doing this. I keep wanting to say this is Disney. I actually don't think this is Disney. I don't see the word Disney anywhere in here. Am I wrong? Is this Disney? I have a Variety article here, and I don't see the word Disney a single time. And I would think that I would.
Yeah, it's 100%
but
Disney.
Maybe not. Okay, well, I guess go off Disney. It certainly feels like it would be Disney. I don't have any familiarity with the
produced by
franchise.
Walt Disney Pictures.
So anyways, yeah, Princess Diaries 3 coming sometime. Also, the name Mia Thermopolis, really good. That's just a good like cinema name. So I certainly applaud that. Let's move on. Let's talk about Avatar. I feel like this half episode of the podcast is kind of me being like, hey, I have no attachment to this thing, but there's a big deal
you picked the
that's
Princess
happening.
Diaries as your topic.
I did. Well, I did. And I think I did. Like I said, it is a little aspirational in the sense that I do think I kind of want to watch them. And I know they were an important touchstone for our generation. So I thought it was worth talking about. Now, Avatar, in a sense, the same thing. Important touchstone for our generation. You guys, I know, are fans of the franchise. I have not seen a single episode of the show because the show is like the main thing from what I understand. This sounds like one of a few franchises in this world that has had a very uneven video game life. And maybe that's being charitable. I don't know. I'm going to turn it over to you guys to talk about your experience in a minute, if such experience exists. But the announcement here is that it's getting its first AAA game. So IGN exclusively revealed that there's a new action RPG coming in the Avatar Legends universe. It's being worked by Paramount and I believe Saber Interactive is the name of the studio. It sounds like there's a good amount of resources getting thrown at this, which kind of makes sense, right? Because this feels like a massive franchise that also thematically I would think would lend itself very well to video games of varying flavors, be it RPG or something else. But I guess I want to turn it over to you guys. Do you guys have any video game experience within the Avatar franchise? Are there any games that were even worthwhile enough to garner experience? Or is this really the first thing?
So as far as like when this show was in its heyday, it was like the GameCube era, PlayStation era, and THQ did publish the kind of story-based games, and they were just okay. But fans have been kind of clamoring for with it being such like an expansive world, have been clamoring for something that is more akin to an open world game. And we've even had an interview on this show with Elka Gaming where he took PlayStation Dreams and made this expansive open world Avatar homebrew thing, and like people just absolutely fell in love with it. And that's what we're hoping to see here. And that's really, really what I want to see. If I just see another game that's based just following the story of the games you played, and it's very linear and not very exploratory, what a missed opportunity.
What we're hearing about it, just to provide a little more context there, yeah, it sounds like it's going to take place in the universe. You're going to be playing with a new character, but interacting with existing characters. It sounds like it's supposed to take place quite a while in the past as far as the franchise goes, so I don't know the extent to which, what characters you would interact with necessarily, but my guess is it's going to be that sort of situation where you have a unique protagonist in an environment and interacting with characters that you know and love, which is a good formula, generally speaking, as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's what I'm very excited about as well. I mean, obviously, we have Avatar and The Legend of Korra, but so far, what we have in a lot of Avatar content is revolving around Aang, who is the main character, the main Avatar in the original, animated series. And even The Legend of Korra, while you have a new main cast, a lot of the, Aang's children are still embedded in the plotline and are part of, the quote-unquote gang. And there's just so much lore in this world and this universe, which is part of what I love about the Avatar series to begin with. And it's so cool to finally potentially have an opportunity to explore characters that aren't related to Aang. I mean, I know technically every Avatar is sort of related if you want to get into the philosophical weeds. But I feel like just getting away from Aang and just there's so much history in the world I'm so excited to finally dive into. And even in terms of the comic books and stuff, not even the video game content or the main TV show content, but even the tertiary side content, it all seems to really revolve around Aang. But there's been all of this, legend building, and I'm pumped about it. I think this is a great decision to, move away from the Avatar that we all know and love. And also what that does too, people have gotten really disappointed with the video game content that we have gotten because they feel it does a disservice and doesn't, fully flesh out the story that we've all come to know and love. And I think by, tackling a completely different era and a completely different Avatar in this video game, you can kind of divorce yourself from, what everybody is expecting. People can go in and yeah, you're obviously going to have your elemental, bending powers because that's what an Avatar does. But you won't have all of these characters weighing down on you and these expectations of, hey, this was what I saw in season 2 and I'm not seeing this in the video game and now I'm pissed. You don't have to worry about any of that. And I think that's also a really good decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is an inflection point, right? For any studio or publisher that, gets their hands on a piece of IP like this, like Avatar, which probably has a very significant base of people who will clamor for a game like this, right? They need to decide, and you kind of made some of these points yourself, they need to just look at the fan base and decide, okay, how mature are you as a fan base? How discerning are you? Do we need to make a game that's going to hold your hand, that's going to show you familiar things, that's going to give you just kind of a countless amount of, hey, look, that's that thing I already know moments, which I don't want to necessarily demean that. There are certain situations in which that's fun, but I think if there's one thing, my view from outside of this franchise, if there's one thing that the fan base has kind of demonstrated through like various pitfalls, is like they are discerning and they want more than they've been given, and they feel that they deserve to be treated differently than certain renditions and installments have treated them, right? And from reading this, which admittedly is very PR-ified statements from like higher ups at Paramount Game Studios and Saber Interactive, it sounds like they have an understanding of that. It sounds like they have an understanding of how deep the lore is, how much of that the fan base and potential players want to experience, and in what way. And, you know, this early in development, what more can you really ask for than that? You know, I'm not even sure this presents an opportunity too, in the sense that I'm not sure how much you need to do in terms of the gameplay that is inventive or new. It's kind of just, I think, how you couch a AAA RPG, even generically so, like in this story world. I think that's really the important thing. So it sounds like you guys have high hopes for this. Is that a fair assessment to land on here?
I do. I know I've talked to a few people who are kind of like, oh, you know, I've been down this road before. It's not going to be any good, so I'm not going to get optimistic about this one. But you know what? I love the franchise. I think it's about time that we get a really solid action RPG game. And so I am cautiously optimistic.
I'd love to just be like, hey, pick your path. Are you an air, water, earthbender? What are you? And just traverse, like, just from a class. Like, pick your class, then pick your fighting style. Just kind of like an open world game. It's so rich. It has so much potential. Just do that.
I mean, imagine a game set in like the 100-Year War or something like that.
Yeah, which side are you fighting for? Obviously the Fire Nation, because they win, but you're proving my point of like, at one point you literally said, just do that. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You need to insert a very classically structured game into the story world in the right way. That's what the challenge is, and it, like I said, it seems like they're well positioned to do that, but we will see whenever this comes out. And by the way, we have no idea when it's coming out. I said that as though we had any sense, but very, very early in development. So long way to go yet. We have yet to see any sort of footage or stills or anything. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our news for this week. Now, before we move on to What Are You Up To Wednesday, I just want to take a minute to shout out our Twitter handles, because I feel like I usually have done so by now. So you can hit me up at @OW86. You have @OW Techtic, @OW Nerdbomber, and our main show account at Onlinewarriors1 over on Twitter. Anything that we've said that you disagree with or agree with, we particularly like when people agree, but we're open to both sides of things. You can head over to Twitter and start a conversation with us. Let's talk about Avatar. Let's talk about Princess Diaries. Let's talk about whatever the heck you want. Again, that's over on Twitter or X if that's your inclination. Let's get into what are you up to Wednesday? This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. I am going to go first because I only have one thing to talk about, and I'm particularly excited about it. It has, I feel like I'm very up and down with video games in general on this show. Sometimes, like, I think sometimes I mislabel and misadvertise myself as like a hardcore gamer, and then like I won't play video games for like months. And then there are times when a game is presented to me that just really, I want to talk about Balatro, which is a game that Nerdbomber brought to my attention a while ago, so she gets credit certainly. And I waffled on buying because it was $15, and I guess I just couldn't handle that emotionally.
You just never waffle on a Nerdbomber pick. I think that's what we're going to learn from this experience.
I did finally pull the trigger and bought it on the Switch. We're recording this on a Sunday night. I bought it on a Friday night and just kind of lost like half of my weekend. And I mean that in a good way. It's been a long time. Like I've gotten into games recently. Like I got really into God of War, and I did get pretty into Ragnarok too. Those are kind of different experiences than this. Like I don't know that they're games that I could sit and play for hours on end and like stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning doing. Balatro is in a way that I think Inscription may have been, because that's another game that I talked about that I feel like is very similar. I talked about that game last year. Very similar game here, not in the story sense, but in the sense that the structure of the gameplay just scratches an itch in my brain in exactly the right way, to the point that I feel psychologically manipulated by the game. Like, I think it's just like, I put myself in front of this little console, because I've only played it in handheld mode. It's perfect for handheld mode. And it just kind of pumps these little dopamine hits into my brain in a very steady and predictable way. and it rewards you for making smart decisions. For being such a simple concept, it is a very layered gameplay experience, and so for those that don't know, it's a roguelike deck builder. You basically do runs where you're playing poker hands against a blind bet. So basically, you have a certain number of hands to achieve a certain score, but you have joker cards that provide modifiers, multipliers, bonuses to your hand that can accrue, pretty astronomically, to the point that you start by trying to establish blinds of like 300-400 points, and you can get into the millions as you go through rounds of the game. It sounds very, very simple when I describe it, but because the Joker collections and all of the different modifiers you can apply to cards in your deck it's so expansive that every run is going to be different and provide you with a lot of really interesting decisions on how to maximize the points that you score with each hand. If you can't tell by the way I'm gushing about this too, it's a really great game to nerd out over. They actually provide when you lose the game, so whenever you finish a run, basically it's when you can't achieve a blind, they will give you a seed. And what the seed basically is, it's like a collection of, I don't know how many alphanumeric characters. It's like 8 or 10 or something. And you can copy that seed. And if you want to play, essentially, I think the same run again with the same set of cards in the shop and deals and stuff, you can put that seed in and just do it over again. If you think, oh, I made some bad decisions, I can do better, the game provides you the opportunity to do that. It costs $15. It's super, super simple. It's a great example, like Inscription was, of a game that would have worked in the 90s, and it works now because it's a very simple concept and it's very addictive. So strongly, strongly, strongly recommend this game. It's one of the more engrossing experiences I've had on the Switch in a hot minute. So this concludes my gushing over Balatro, and I will now turn it over to Nerdbomber to continue our regularly scheduled programming.
All right, so as almost like clockwork, there is a new season of Love is Blind, and I am watching it. They've only, I think, released the first half of the season. There's going to be another chunk, where they get out of Mexico, go back to their real lives, try to live together, and figure out how they fit in real life together. So far, I will say, there's less drama this season. Like, the drama, there's only one, I think, love triangle at the end, like within this season, and it doesn't really follow. I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess. I don't know, but it doesn't really like follow through to the rest of the season, which is kind of refreshing. I feel like almost like a formula. Every time you watch Love is Blind, there is a messy love triangle or two. They go to, their little honeymoon thing, like Mexico, Cabo, wherever they may send them. The love triangle blows up because the people who found others like see each other and they're like, ooh, maybe I made the wrong decision. And then bad things ensue. And this season, it feels a little bit more like intentional that they didn't do that. Maybe because they saw the success of the UK. I think this season was filmed prior to the UK one launching though. But maybe they're, hearing feedback that the drama and the mess isn't exactly what everybody is watching for, and it's getting a little bit old. And I feel like there's a little bit more authenticity to the season than I've seen out of a lot of the other US seasons. So that has been great, and I'm watching it. It's still, I will say, it's losing a little bit of the magic as I'm watching more seasons. I still think it's probably one of the better reality shows that Netflix or really anybody is putting out. But yeah, that is what I've been watching. Still plugging away at Astrobot. It's been a busy week, so haven't really gotten to log too many hours into Astrobot. But yeah, still plugging away at it. I'm almost done. I think I have 279 of the bots out of 300, so I'm knocking on the finale store. I'm just not quite there yet. But it's still a very good, very solid game, and I'm having a blast with it. And I'll punt it over to Techtic, unless you had a question about anything.
No, sounds like you're grinding on Astrobot.
I am. I'm doing a perfectionist run. Like, I want to collect everything. I'm getting everything. So, like, I'm playing some of these level multiple times. Like, if I miss something, I will immediately go back and replay it to try to find what I missed. So, I am definitely grinding out perfection on this one.
Well, that just leaves you, Techtic.
Okay, so beautiful weather. We're cramming as much in as possible. So I want to talk about two things. First thing, Nerdbomber and I, we went pumpkin picking, and what a joyous, apple cider donuts. You pick your pumpkins. You get the weird ones too. You don't just go with the standard. You got to get I got it almost looks like a zombie pumpkin. It's like this like white one. It's super cool. I'm really in love with it. Every time I walk in my house, I'm like, oh, look how cool that pumpkin is. And just like the corn maze, just absolutely 10 out of 10. Great experience. Make sure to do that before the weather gets too cold. So we did that. I have officially saved Hyrule from Ganon, so I am done playing Tears of the Kingdom. Yay me. And lastly, I had convinced a couple of friends of mine to go golfing with me.
Hey, who were the friends?
Yeah. We're the friends.
It was Illeagle and Nerdbomber. It was the Onlinewarriors annual golf outing.
It was a corporate outing. Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't actually an annual thing, nor is it a corporate thing, but maybe let's make it a thing. You know what? This is year one. We're locking it in. And man, it is a good time. It was the three of us. We played best balls because we're all kind of terrible. So at least one of us will carry us through. And so we did. And it's just a good time. If you're intimidated by golf, don't be. Look up what best ball is. Basically, you all hit the ball and you start the next point at where the best ball landed. And so you can keep moving and you don't worry about the pressures of, oh, am I taking too slow or whatever. And it makes it just enjoyable for everyone, especially if you're a beginner. So definitely look into that. You can find a set of clubs, Goodwill, Facebook Marketplace, whatever. It's worth it. It's 100% worth it. And the weather's cool and crisp. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to wear all those layers, well, now's the time. Fall golf is heavily romanticized, and I am here for it. It is wonderful.
Fall golf, otherwise known as FOLF. Had a great time. You know why we don't have corporate outings, by the way? I think I should just clarify this for the listeners. There's no corporate. This is it. This
is
what you're
corporate.
hearing right now.
I can tell you why we don't. It's because we don't have HR.
Yeah. Also a budget.
Weird shit happens on corporate outings, and you need an HR representative for that to handle that weird shit.
Had a fantastic time golfing. I do have one question before we move on, which is, and I think I've asked this on the show before. We've probably had a long-winded debate about it. Are you guys pumpkin painters or pumpkin carvers?
Nah, we're carvers. You got to get those pumpkin seeds crispy in the oven. We're synced, Techtic, you and I today.
Yeah, that was really weird. We are a pumpkin painting household, and we won't be taking questions. I speak for both myself and my wife.
There is no wrong way to pumpkin. If you don't want to eat the seeds, then why would you carve? But I want to eat the seeds. I'm like a little squirrel. I see those seeds and I go crazy.
I would say that even not really doing anything pumpkin-wise is also an okay way to pumpkin. Like this is not the kind of thing where like I think that's one of the good things about Halloween. Halloween is, to me, one of the more like, just do what you're comfortable with holidays. And I think that's great. I think like other holidays have a lot of pressure. Like Christmas obviously has a lot of pressure. Halloween, it's like, there's a lot of people having a really good time and doing a lot, and that's great. And there's people having a medium time and doing a medium amount of stuff, and that's also great. And then there's other people who are like, just not really doing it, and I think that's fine too. It takes a village. And you can be whatever part of that village you want to be. We have no quiz today. We're taking a break. Techtic requested that we stop doing quizzes because
I just need to I just got to recenter myself.
Guys, that's not what happened. He didn't request that. That was untruthful. We are not doing a quiz this week, but we will be back next week to do the quiz. We will get our producers to pick a topic. Now, on the topic of producers, we will instead end this episode by shouting out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Stephen Keller. Stephen, you thought we weren't going to shout you out. You made it to the end and you were about to lodge a complaint. Take that complaint and lodge it somewhere else because you have been shouted out, as is your due as a producer on this show. Stephen supports us at the highest of our 3 levels of support over on Patreon. That is the night level of support. He gets this shout out every episode. He gets input into the game segment. Of course, he had the guest spot on the show fairly recently now. If you're a listener, you would have heard that, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago. He, of course, also gets access to the monthly secret segment and the monthly vlog. There is a Squire level of support, which also gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriors podcast to gather all of the details on any and all of those levels of support. So again, that's patreon.com/onlinewarriors podcast. Thanks again to Stephen, and thanks again to Jose for sitting down to chat with us. And we will be back next week with more regularly scheduled October programming. In the week between now and then, if you're even thinking a little bit, hey, I should try golfing, and if the weather in your neck of the woods can support it, I'm gonna echo what Techtic said, and you should just try it because fall golf it's a good time. So
Even if you don't like golfing, just bombing around on a golf cart, A+ experience.
guys, they don't call it the great outdoors for nothing. It is capable of being great. So go enjoy the fall weather, stay safe, and keep on podcasting, and we'll see you next week.